Hey all, welcome to another Midlife Girl Chat. I'm solo again this week. I do have some good fun stuff coming up next week, but so I just thought, and this it might go a little wonky here, because this idea came to me as I was falling asleep last night, and I thought this is a really great idea, except I don't remember all of what I was planning to do. So my thought had been, let's talk about menopause. You know, last week I did the debunking the menopause myths, but there's a lot more to menopause than what we really think about, know about, are told about. So I thought I'd kind of just run through with it because, I thought I'm having hot flashes. I must be in menopause, right? No, I was in menopause a lot longer. Not menopause. Menopause is the one day when you have not had a period for 12 months. I had a uterine ablation, and on the doctor's record it said menopause because I wasn't bleeding anymore. But I still was doing the cycling thing, so I was still running through all the hormonal crazies, right? So perimenopause is that journey you go on from when your ovaries begin to decline, where your eggs that you have are starting to run out, your hormone estrogen, progesterone are starting to do some decreasing, and so that's when things get all weird, and you feel off. And I've had people tell me, but I just don't feel like myself. Like they can't tell me anything specific other than they just don't feel like themselves. I just remember being exhausted all the time. And, because I had the ablation, I didn't see some of the things that was happening as related to hormones. And of course, at that point in life, I did not know there was such a thing as perimenopause. I had just thought, you have hot flashes, you're menopausal. So, like I said, menopause is that one day that you've been 12 months without a period. After that, you become postmenopausal. While I'm chatting here too, if you're listening, you're watching the recording, throw in any questions, because I know this is a whole lot. Our midlife crazies, the roller coaster, the hormonal roller coaster. It's not talked about. We don't know much about it. And so we really need to talk about it, because maybe as I'm talking, something thought may come up, throw it in there. And even if you're watching the replay, honestly, I'll get back to it, because I know this is something really big. We women just don't understand what's going on in our bodies. Doctors just don't, I don't say don't give us the answers, but they may not even know all the right answers or the right questions to ask, because they're just not taught about perimenopause, menopause. Even gynecologists that I follow will say they weren't taught all of this stuff when they were in college. I mean, menopause was a mention, but there was no, like, this is what it is, what's going to happen, what you see. And just there's not been a lot of studies done. And in the way of medical studies, more have been done on men than in women. And they base the results they get from the men to us women. And us women are a whole lot different than those men. We have a lot of different hormones. Well, we have the same hormones, just in different amounts. They just don't get to carry the babies, right? So that's kind of where the doctors base everything off of. And they get a woman in there complaining in mid-age about, I just don't feel right, or this is going on, that's going on. And they just think we're crazy. Here's some antidepressants. Here's some anti-anxiety medication. Oh, here's this. And we're never taken seriously because, well, Number one, the doctors don't know. You know, I have a friend who her doctors do. They just handed her, like, here's some antidepressants. And she was like, that's not what I want. This is not what I want. I want to be able to have some hormone replacement. And they wouldn't even, like, not even think about it because she's still younger. So there's no way she should be in it. She should even be in, because, like, I don't think she's hit 40 yet. So the doctors are just like, no, that's not it. You don't need that. When, as her and I talk, everything that she's experiencing are all signs that she's in the perimenopause. So, Kim, you're saying, what is perimenopause, right? And we talked about this is when your ovary production of eggs are beginning to dwindle down here little by little. Hormones are going a little crazy. Typically, average age 45-ish or so, but you can start as early as 35-ish into the 30s, late 30s, right? You can start a little later than 45-ish. So that's just kind of a general guideline. But yeah, it can start much sooner. And that's kind of when the doctors kind of poo-poo you because, you know, you're just crazy. You're just, don't know what you're talking about. We don't find anything. And, oh, let's do blood work. Oh, we don't see anything wrong with the blood work. So you're just crazy, right? So it's just, it makes us feel crazy. It makes us feel bad. It makes us not feel good about ourselves because we're being disregarded. Yeah. Okay. So how do I know that I am starting this whole, well, okay, let me stop a minute. When we talk about the last day, the day that you've gone 12 months without, and that's menopause. On average, 51-ish is when that happens. It can go later, it can go shorter. You can have the early menopause, you can have medically induced menopause. If you have had a hysterectomy, still have ovaries where they just took out the uterus or at least left you one uterus, that's kind of a menopause because you're no longer bleeding, but you still are doing that hormonal cycling. So that's still going on. And that's where when I was like, what do you mean I'm menopausal? You know, but with the ablation, they stopped my bleeding. So technically, yeah, I guess you could say that. Truly menopause, though, I mean, like when my ovaries were like kaput and done and there was no more estrogen, progesterone left in me, that was a different story. Okay, so back to this. How do I know what's going on, Kim? How can I tell? So I'm just going to run through a few of these. I have one of the gynecologists that I follow has a whole list, and I counted up, I think there was 70 in here. Oops. But it's evidence-based signs and symptoms of menopause. So things that you are experiencing that could actually be proof that you're, ooh, look, that gets brighter, that you are actually into that perimenopausal period. Acid reflux, like has that reflux started to get worse? I know with me, I'm trying to think, I obviously had to be in my 50s because it was right at the beginning of COVID, because I had to go, I went to the ER. I thought I was having a heart attack because I had had some really bad reflux overnight, and so it just sat in my esophagus and burned my esophagus. I thought I was having a heart attack, and I had to, my husband dropped me off at the ER and had to leave because he couldn't go in with me. So that becomes worse. Acne. My goodness, I'm in my 40s and my 50s. I shouldn't have acne like I'm 14 and 15, right? Anxiety. Anxiety is like, I remember just, especially when I first started having hot flashes, the anxiety I would feel if I knew that one was going to be coming on. And other women just like true anxiety and for no reason, and they don't understand like what is going on. Why am I having all this? I've never had issues before. Well, that's a piece of it. Arthritis. You could be getting arthritis, or your arthritis could get worse. Asthma. I'm trying to think when my asthma was diagnosed. It was probably late 30s. Probably late 30s, because I had had both my boys and we had just moved to this house, which was 20 years ago. So probably 18 years ago. So, you know, a new diagnosis of asthma, or the asthma getting worse. Those hormones play funky things on us, girls. Getting a new autoimmune disease, things like thyroid issues, gestational diabetes. I'm at work still. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Let's see, bloating, and things are shifting. Your fat composition is shifting. The body odor can be significantly worse. I start to get that brain fog, like, I don't remember what I was doing. Things aren't right again. You can get some burning sensation in your mouth or on your tongue. Chronic fatigue syndrome, dental problems, depression. Depression is another big one. And I mean, my depression got bad. It was bad. So I dealt with that. That was pretty serious. And I tried all sorts of antidepressant, all sorts. I tried 3 or 4 different, and they just didn't help. Nothing helped. It's because it was a hormonal thing, not a brain chemical thing. Dizzy spells, dry eyes, dry mouth, eczema, fatigue, fatty liver disease, frozen shoulder. Where did I read that at? Like, out of the percentages of cases of frozen shoulder that they are, people are diagnosed with, the majority, like almost like 90% are women, mid-age women. Who could guess that? Gastrointestinal problems. You start having, like I said, more of the bloating, more of the gas, maybe more issues with constipation or diarrhea, headaches, and heart palpitations. Man, I would get those. I'd just be walking along, all of a sudden it'd kind of flutter. Of course, the hot flashes, your cholesterol levels are changing. Incontinence. That's a big one, right? We need that estrogen for muscle strength. And when that estrogen starts to decline, that muscle strength is not there. And that involves our pelvic floor that holds all the urine in, right? Irritability. Man, my kids as teenagers could really get to me. Itchy ears. How's that one for you? Joint pain. Let's see. Memory issues. Mental health disorders. Mood changes. Muscle loss. Osteoporosis. Pain with intercourse. That's a big one, right? Having that pain. And sleep apnea. Sleep disturbances, thinning hair, temporal mandible disorder, I think like TMJ, tinnitus, tingling in your extremities. Oh yeah, TMJ is down here. Unwanted hair growth. Those little. My grandma. I just remember my grandma being there with her little tweezers, those chinny whiskers, and she'd be plucking them all out. Or, you get that mustache look, and getting rid of that hormone, the estrogen, the girl hormone, and some of those boy hormones are popping up a little more. The vaginal dryness, vertigo. That was one of my coworkers' first signs, was the vertigo. And of course, they're treating her for something else. And we were in the stress of COVID, doing our job, with COVID stuff, and so she just thought it was the stress, and I was like, this is a sign. And weight gain, wrinkles. So those are just a few, but on here she has, I counted them up one day, 70 signs, symptoms that we are in that perimenopause. So there's a lot that we don't realize is going on. I mean, we know the big ones like I don't have any energy, I lost my energy, or the mood swings, right? Man, I could swing from left to right to left again like crazy. And especially when the boys were little and they'd like upset me. Um, the lack of energy, the hot flashes, those are the big things, but there's a whole lot of little things that are going on. And a lot of it just has to do with the decline of the estrogen and progesterone. And those are big things. So kind of thinking about like, what am I going to do? And I talked last week, if you cut last week, about gaining the weight. We're gaining weight, right? Well, it's not necessarily caused by menopause. It is the decline in estrogen causes the fat stores that sit on our hips for baby making to move to this front right here. So we get that nice little muffin top, right? But as we are, what do I want to say? We get less active because of the exhaustion. Our bodies just slow down, so the metabolism changes. So that affects the weight gain. It's not necessarily menopause per se. So trying to do a few different things. And if you're like watching this and you're in your 30s now and you're going, holy cow, Kim, you're scaring me. Doing a few things now, taking care of yourself now versus waiting till you're in the midst of it and you're really feeling terrible, is a great place to start, is right now, right? And I want to say diet and lifestyle are two of the biggest things that can have a huge impact on how you go through this menopause journey. Got a raspy in my chest today. So getting rid of the sugars, getting rid of our processed food. Our food has so much crap in it. So getting rid of the processed, the white bread, all of that stuff, the freezer food, getting rid of the sugar, and trying to get more fruits, vegetables, and just doing a good variety. Like I'd always love to talk with you too if you want to know more, like diet wise. Like, hey Kim, give me a hand raise, give me a DM something and say, help me. Like, what do I do? But those are the biggest things: sugar and processed foods. Alcohol is a big one. We think, come home from a long day at work and we're wound up and I'm going to have a glass of wine to sit down and wind down for the evening and to help me sleep. That doesn't work. It's because alcohol is sugar and it just disrupts our whole sleep system. Stress, taking care of stress, that's one of the biggest lifestyle things you can do. And I know I've talked a lot about stress this winter, and next week's live, it's going to be a recording next week because she's in India. So, if at this time it's like 4:00 in the morning for her, I think she said. They're 9.5 hours ahead. So she didn't think she could make it on a live. So we're going to do a recording next week, but we're talking about stress. She's a stress, I can't forget what she calls, but she works with stress. And I'm actually going to be part of her summit, stress summit. So we're going to talk about stress, what it does to us, how to take care of it. She gives us some little tips for taking care of stress. But we're going to talk about our summit too. And then exercise, getting your exercise. I hate the word exercise, right? So movement, do joyful movement. Do something that makes you happy, makes you feel good. Bring that intensity down. If you're doing cardio, bring the intensity way down because that's a stress on our body. And the lack of estrogen, progesterone allows the cortisol, our stress hormone, to freak out. So bring it down. Do muscle strength training. That's huge because of lack of estrogen, our muscle strength is going down. So you need to keep doing that muscle building. Plus, it helps with our bones too. So stress, movement, diet, those are just a few of the things you really can work on. There's things like mindset too around it. Don't look at it as I'm just getting old. And I know it's hard sometimes. Hard or not, I don't know. Some women are like, hallelujah, I'm glad I'm done with that. I know I was. But some women kind of look at it as kind of a mourning period, because as much as you didn't want to have babies anymore, it's kind of like you feel like it's coming to an end, right? We're no longer useful. And I think that's the way a lot of women feel is, what do I want to say? We are very useful when we're in our childbearing years, right? And then we get into this menopause period and we just aren't taken as seriously as we are when we're having children or whatever. So there's just so much going on. So mindset, and I'm just trying to think all the things I do with you in my programs. We talk about mindset and working on, how do I want to say that? We talk about the inner child, like how things that past traumas, hurts, feelings, we hang on to those as adults, like something that was said like hundreds of years ago. Sometimes it is like something that was done before we were born, even that like happened in utero, or it's a generational thing. But just things that we may have experienced. And I tell you, had somebody take me back doing a timeline, and I had something that took me way back into infancy that has affected me to this day. So working on some of that stuff, of that, that just getting rid of those old hurts in there, because some of the things that I've been hanging on and believing about myself is not allowing me to be the person that I want to be, right? So just so many things we can do to work on ourselves. And when I'm working with you in a program, I love to work on every piece of it. We're not just talking about diet. We're not just talking about, there's a whole thing that goes together. Mind, body, soul, mental, everything is a piece of it, because we're not just our diet. We're not just our brain. We're not just our feelings. We're not just, whatever. There's that whole piece of us. So I'm not going to do just part of that. Anyways, so that's kind of a little bit, I don't remember, like I said, what my thoughts were when I was falling asleep last night and this grand idea came to me. But that's a little bit about what some of this is going on when we talk about, what do you mean in my mid-30s I could be starting into this, or my, late 30s. It's possible you could be doing it. And if you start going, Kim talked about this and I've been experiencing that, or I just don't feel like myself, don't understand it, but that could be part of it. And I just remember, I used to work in the yard. I have several gardens out here in my yard, and I wish I didn't have them now, because I loved them then, but I don't now, but I would just be like, every day after work, I'd get out there in the summer and be playing in the dirt in my gardens. And now I'm just like, I'm too tired. And I hit a point where I'd be like, after work and dinner, I just sit down in my rocking chair and I'd be like, I just don't want to do anything else for the rest of the evening. And I just couldn't understand it. And my husband couldn't understand it. Well, that was a piece of that whole perimenopausal thing. So anyways, if you have stuck it out with me, I just want to say thank you for checking in. Like I said, if you're watching the replay, throw in a comment, because I want you to, I want to answer your questions, because I know this is not necessarily always an easy time. That's one of my thoughts from last night. Every woman has to go through this. If you have ovaries, it doesn't matter who you identify as long as you have ovaries, you're going to go through this process. 15% of the women cruise right through without hardly any issues going on. Otherwise you get the, whatever, but there are some women, and I can't remember what the statistics were for that that some women it's just very debilitating and they can't even function. So that's what I'm here for, is to help you get through this. Of course, if you're getting to that debilitating stage, that's when you want to check in more with your doctor. Hormone therapy is an okay thing. There's a lot behind that and studies that were done wrong. So hormone therapy is okay. I've used it. I'm using it. So if you need anything, just throw a comment, question in here. Send me a DM, whatever. Let's chat, because it's all about making this next stage of life better, and going through this last stage of our life, making it, what do I want to say, man? My brain is like, the best we can, and be healthy and loving life instead of looking at it as the beginning of the end. Right? So, thanks for sticking it out with me. Y'all have a great evening, great week. We're supposed to get more snow here. I'm not excited. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks. Bye.